What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
And we're back!
That's right, back again. Episode 14 of JC's Pop Culture Podcast here, coming at you with a good bit of movie news. We got Scream 7 news. We've got Ted Lasso returning news. All kinds of good stuff to talk about here. I'll try not to keep this one long. It's going to be a little bit shorter of a podcast episode, but definitely felt like it was time to release one. I've been trying to do this weekly. I'm getting better at it. Still haven't got to the point where it's weekly, but been a lot going on. You guys know that follow my other channel, JCCFB. We got news on college football 26. I'll touch on that briefly. And then, of course, covering WVU on my main channel, Country Roads Webcast, takes up a lot of my time, but trying to keep things moving here at JC's Movies. And hopefully you guys are subscribed here to the JC's Movies YouTube channel. If you're listening on the audio side, hop over to the YouTube and do that. If you're on the YouTube side and want to listen to this audio only, you can catch it on any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, you name it. You can find us there, JC's Pop Culture Pod. But really appreciate you guys tuning into this one. With no further ado, let's talk about some movie news, because guess what, guys? Bow, bow, bow. That's right, Dewey is back. Had to hit that little broken arrow sound in honor of Deputy Dewey Riley returning to the Scream franchise. Just continues to add to the returning characters that are coming back for this movie. Not only are we getting Kevin Williamson back, we're getting Neve Campbell back, as we knew, but we also have Scott Foley, we have the great Matthew Lillard, and now David Arquette confirmed as well, which is really interesting. We'll talk theories about what this could mean, but let's pull up the article and talk about it a little bit here as we get into our movie news, leading it off with this Scream 7 stuff. All right, so from Bloody Disgusting, Scream 7, David Arquette officially confirmed to return. His character may have been killed off a couple years back in Scream 5, but that doesn't seem to matter in this franchise anymore. Deadline reports that David Arquette has joined Scream 7. David Arquette's Dewey Riley was infamously killed off in Scream in 2022. For what it's worth, Deadline notes that Arquette is indeed playing Dewey in Scream 7, so that's confirmed that he is still playing Dewey. So it's interesting to see what route they're going to go here. Is this going to be a lot of flashbacks since we have characters returning that we have had confirmed dead in the past? I know there's been other theories about it being maybe like a new Nightmare take on the Scream franchise, which will be really freaking cool. I would love to see that shit happen. How the hell is Arquette back as Dewey, Matthew Lillard back as Stu Macher, and Scott Foley back as Roman Bridger? Scream 7 is getting stranger and stranger by the week. Deadline notes the trio played characters who died in the franchise and are returning in a surprising way. Details regarding how Arquette comes back and the film's plot are very much under wraps. The 7th installment, of course, will hit theaters on February 27th, 2026. Very, very interesting for sure. But that's not the only piece of Scream 7 news we have. We also have another little bit of casting that came out. Let's share this one as well. Also from Bloody Disgusting, I do believe. We'll get our Scream news out of the way and we can move on, talk some other things. But also joining the Scream 7 cast are Michelle Randolph and Jimmy Tatro. I love Jimmy Tatro. He's been funny in everything that I've seen him in. Michelle Randolph, who's in 1923, which I've never seen, and Jimmy Tatro, who they've got listed as from American Vandal, are the latest to join the cast of Scream 7. The film, of course, currently in production in Atlanta. The slasher sequel set to be released on February 27th, 2026. Neve Campbell back, Courtney Cox back, Mason Gooding back, Jasmine Savoy Brown back, and of course, as we just talked about, David Arquette, Matthew Lillard, and Scott Foley. Isabel May joined the franchise as Sydney's daughter, Joel McHale playing Sydney's husband, and we talked about that on other episodes. And of course, the ones that are also rounding out the cast, McKenna Grace, Celeste O'Connor, Sam Reckner, Asa German, Anna Camp, Ethan Embry, and Mark Consuelos. We've talked about most of those on previous episodes. Kevin Williamson, the writer of the original Scream, and of course Scream 2 and Scream 4, is directing a script from Guy Busick, who wrote 5 Cream and Scream 6. As we mentioned, plot details being kept under wraps, but the latest installment of the slasher saga is expected to focus on Sydney and her family in the fictitious town of Pine Grove, Indiana. So not going back to Woodsboro. Last time we were in New York, which I wasn't the biggest fan of Scream 6, if you heard me talk about it. Wasn't bad. I don't think Scream's really had a bad movie in the franchise, but it was one of my least favorite in the franchise, so I'm glad that we're going kind of a different direction for 7, but interesting that we're going to be in Indiana this time, and then you see a picture of Jimmy Tatro there on the bottom, and we had the picture up top here of Michelle Randolph, so they joined the cast. So that's what I have for the Scream 7 news here. And that's a film that I cannot wait. It's probably obviously going to be one of my most anticipated films of 2026 whenever I drop that list later this year, especially with Kevin Williamson back, who I'm a huge fan of, especially getting Neve Campbell back to the franchise. Felt really weird not having her in Scream 6, in my opinion. So I really am intrigued by all the casting news that's come out for Scream 7. I want to see where they're going to take this. Are we going to get a lot of flashbacks, or is it going to be like a new Nightmare take? Either one I'm all for, because getting Matthew Lillard back, hell yeah. And it just didn't feel the same in Scream 6. I mentioned without Nev, but without Deputy Dewey as well. You got to get David Arquette in there. My guy Mike from Wham's been saying it since 5 Cream. Wrong kid died. Should have been Gale. Should have kept Dewey alive. I agree with that personally. Big fan of Dewey, one of my favorite characters in the franchise. So now 2 of my favorite characters returning, Matthew Lillard as Stu Macher and David Arquette as Dewey Riley. Probably my 2 favorite characters in the franchise besides Nev Campbell, who's also back. So Scream 7 just continues to shoot up the excitement for me, and I cannot wait to see that shit. So that's what I had for Scream 7 news. But that's not the only news of someone returning that we have. We also have Ted Lasso is back, guys. Jason Sudeikis is returning. This had been rumored for a while, but kind of now official confirmation came from Variety earlier this week. Renewed for season 4, and we have some small details here, which Ted Lasso, an absolute awesome series. I was late to the party. I just watched it like last year, but so glad that they're making a season 4 now, and hopefully it doesn't do anything to tarnish it, because the first 3 seasons were so good. But also it's so popular, I can understand why they want to bring it back. And, Apple TV is actually putting out some pretty good shows that not a lot of people get to watch. Talk about one of those at the tail end when I talk about things that I've been watching recently. But Ted Lasso coming back, definitely a pleasant and welcomed addition. We can believe again, Apple TV has officially renewed Ted Lasso for season 4, with series lead Jason Sudeikis on board to return as the titular pun-happy mustachioed football coach. No other castings are officially confirmed. It had been previously reported that options had been picked up for Hannah Waddingham, Brett Goldstein, and Jeremy Swift, which hopefully that proves to be true in the near future as well. Jason Sudeikis here with his statement says, as we all continue to live in a world where so many factors have conditioned us to look before we leap. In season 4, the folks at AFC Richmond learn to leap before they look, discovering that wherever they land, it's exactly where they're meant to be. Jack Burdett has boarded season 4 as executive producer under his new overall deal with Apple TV. Sudeikis will executive produce in addition to starring Brendan Hunt, who played Coach Beard, Toheeb Gmo, Joe Kelly, Jane Becker, Jamie Lee, and Bill Rubel will also executive produce. Brett Goldstein is attached to write and executive produce along with Leanne Bowen. Bill Lawrence executive produces via Dozer Productions alongside Jeff Ingold and Lisa Katster. And then you get some others involved there. I won't bore you too much with that. Of course, Ted Lasso developed by Sudeikis, Lawrence, Kelly, and Hunt based on the pre-existing format and characters from NBC Sports. I don't know if we got the quote in here. In addition to aforementioned cast members, Ted Lasso star Juno Temple, Phil Dunster, Nick Mohammed, Toheeb Gmo, Cristo Fernandez, Cola Bikini, Billy Hilliers, and James Lance. If there was ever a show the world needed more of right now, it would be Ted Lasso, said Channing Dunning, chairman and CEO of Warner Brothers Television Group. Let's see if they got the other information here. I don't see it, but recently Jason Sudeikis was on the New Heights podcast, and he shared the details that season 4, Ted Lasso is actually going to be coaching a women's team now. That's what Jason Sudeikis said on the New Heights podcast. So maybe that's a little bit of a plot leak for us, a little bit of info about what season 4 is going to be about. But no matter what happens, I'm sure we're all going to be tuned in and can't wait for Ted Lasso to come back. So wanted to talk about that. Now let's talk a little bit of superhero news here, as we have one piece on the Marvel side and then a couple pieces here on the DC side. Try and keep you guys up to date with the DCU. But as far as Marvel is concerned, Stranger Things star Sadie Sink has been cast as in Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4. Sadie Sink joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Stranger Things star has been cast in Spider-Man 4, which I don't know if that's going to be the official title, probably not, I would say, in which she'll share the screen with Tom Holland as the teenage web-slinging adventure. It's unclear who Sink will portray in the comic book adventure, though Deadline, which first reported the casting news, hinted that her role will be significant. The outlet also posited that Sink could play X-Men mutant Jean Grey, a character who has been brought to the screen in the past by Famke Janssen and Sophie Turner. Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures, which released the Spider-Man-centric films in Disney Marvel Cinematic Universe, couldn't be reached for comment here. This is from Variety. I could definitely see her playing Jean Grey. Obviously, she has the red hair. She has the look. I also saw someone else say, what if she's, Mary Jane, which that would really just be weird to me, unless, I guess you are bringing in like multiverse now. They are preparing to do Secret Wars. So it could have, Mary Jane Watson from a different universe, since Zendaya plays kind of a Mary Jane S character known as MJ in the Spider-Man films, as we know. So I think either one of those two are a possibility. We'll see what it ends up being as more news comes out on it. We'll report on it here on JC's Pop Culture Pod. But let's talk some DC news now as we continue to talk a bit about the Lantern series that is now in production. Let's pull up a couple pieces of casting for that. Last episode, we talked about some. Now we got a couple more. One of those being, this also from Variety, Nicole Ari Parker joins DC's Lantern series at HBO. And just like that star, Nicole Ari Parker has landed a recurring role in the HBO DC Studios drama series Lanterns as Jon Stewart's mother, Bernadette. So she'll be playing Jon Stewart's mother. Interesting. The series follows Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, who, of course, are played by Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre, respectively, the two members of the Green Lantern Corps, an intergalactic team charged with defending a specific realm of the cosmos from evil through the use of rings that bestow an array of superhuman powers. The official character description for Bernadette reads, "Formidable and tenacious, Bernadette refuses to give up, no matter how insurmountable the odds. At her core, she's a fiercely protective mother who has worked her entire life to ensure that she and her family will not be passed over." So we have Nicole Ari Parker joining as the mother of Jon Stewart's character. And then we also have a familiar face joining the cast as well as the son of the late, great John Ritter. Jason Ritter joins the cast as well. This one also from Variety, I believe, here. So the upcoming DC Studios Lantern series has cast Jason Ritter in a recurring role. Ritter joins a cast that includes Aaron Pierre, Kyle Chandler, Kelly MacDonald, Garrett Dillahunt, Porna Jogathan, and Ulrich Thompson. Per the official logline, the show follows new recruit Jon Stewart and Lantern legend Hal Jordan, two intergalactic cops drawn into a dark Earth-based mystery as they investigate a murder in the Heartland. So Ritter's character will be Billy Macon, described as a good-looking charmer who does his father's bidding. Capitalizing on his family's reputation, he clings to his small-town ego and has everything to lose. Ritter currently appears in the CBS drama series Matlock, the reboot there with Kathy Bates, which was just renewed for a second season. Also set to appear in the second season of Poker Face on Peacock. Known for roles in shows like Joan of Arcadian, Kevin Probably Saves the World, Parenthood, and Raising Dion, which if you haven't seen Raising Dion, check that shit out. That's a pretty cool show, especially if you like superhero stuff. Wish that one would have lasted longer. Also earned an Emmy nomination for his role in Parenthood and was nominated for the short-form series Tales of Titans. Also stars in films such as Frozen 2, The Tale, and The Meddler. Of course, repped by the Burstein Company and Gersh, but Jason Ritter joins the cast, so we continue to get news on Lanterns, which we cannot wait for that. As far as the DC Studios TV realm of things, Lanterns is definitely the one that I'm probably most anticipating, currently filming now, and we're getting closer and closer to the release of Superman, guys. Less than 3 months away now. Can't wait for that one. We'll continue to talk about that, and of course, we'll have reviews on the channel coming up here on the JC's Movies YouTube channel. So yet again, if you're on the audio side, be sure to hop over here to the YouTube where you can get all our movie reviews. I'm going to do a review series leading up to the release of James Gunn's Superman, and which will kickstart the live action side of the DCU under his tutelage now. Can't wait for that. And if you are here on YouTube watching this episode, just do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. That helps a shit ton with the YouTube algorithm. Throw any thoughts you have on any of these stories in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're a fan of movies, especially superhero, comedy, and horror, which is what we're going to talk about here. The last couple of news stories I have relate to the horror genre. So let's talk about those here, both from Bloody Disgusting. Got some Toxic Avengers advertisements there, which that's finally going to be released soon as well. Netflix bringing Stephen King's Cujo back to life with a new movie. So Netflix has acquired the rights to Cujo, and they are going to be releasing a new movie. Mixed feelings about this one. I mean, what are you going to do different than the first one did? Or what are you going to do better than the first one did, I guess I should say, because, the original was really good. Now, they're going to throw in probably a lot of shitty CGI, and I don't know, a lot of these modern remakes just don't do it for me, I guess you could say. But anyways, it's coming whether we want it or not. Stephen King's Killer K-9 is coming back to life. Deadline reporting that Netflix and producer Roy Lee of the It franchise are developing a brand new Cujo movie. The project will go out to writers immediately, Deadline noted in their report. No other information has been announced at this time. Stay tuned for more. Stephen King's horror novel Cujo was originally published in 1981, with director Louis Teague's classic horror movie adaptation being unleashed 2 years later in 1983, starring the great Dee Wallace, of course, in that one, which we always think is a great movie. Here's the synopsis from the novel. If you don't know about Cujo, here you go. Outside a peaceful town in central Maine, surprise, surprise, it's in Maine, a monster is waiting. Cujo, a 200-pound St. Bernard, the best friend Brett Camber has ever had. One day, Cujo chases a rabbit into a cave inhabited by sick bats and emerges as something new altogether. Rabies stricken, then the family has to kind of fend him off from attacking them. Big period of the movie where Dee Wallace and the boy are caught in the car, and man, there's just super tension there throughout that one. For sure. Meanwhile, Vic and Donna Trenton and their youngest son Tad move to Maine. They're seeking peace and quiet, but life in this small town is not what it seems as Tad tries to fend off the terror that comes to him at night from his bedroom closet. And as Vic and Donna face their own nightmare of a marriage on the rocks, there's no way they can know that a monster infinitely sinister waits in the daylight. So, Cujo movie coming to Netflix. One of our horror stories, and the last horror story I have here, and then I'll touch just briefly on the college football 26 news before I talk about what I've been watching recently. Like I said, I'll keep this one a shorter episode, guys, but the last piece that we have here is we are indeed getting a sequel to Ready or Not. Samara Weaving did such a great job in Radio Silence's first movie. I don't think it really needed a sequel, but I'm guessing Catherine Newton reteaming with Radio Silence for Ready or Not 2. Of course, she was just in Abigail. I've liked a lot of Catherine Newton's work lately, by the way. But I'm guessing maybe it's going to be a similar story to the original Ready or Not, but obviously with different characters would be what I would assume, because you can't really make a sequel to that movie if you know the plot of Ready or Not, which I'm sure most of you guys do. But here we are from Bloody Disgusting. Abigail actress Catherine Newton will reteam with Radio Silence for Ready or Not 2, the report originally coming from Deadline. She joins returning star Samara Weaving in the sequel from Searchlight Pictures. So interesting, Samara Weaving is coming back. So what I was thinking for the sequel seems to not be the case, since Samara Weaving will be back in it again, interestingly enough. I'll be interested to see where they take this. I don't think the first movie needed a sequel, but it was very good, and Radio Silence for the most part has done really good work. So I'm interested to check it out, and we'll see what happens with it. Of course, the Radio Silence guys are Matt Bettalini-Alpin and Tyler Gillette, back at the helm with the script by original Ready or Not writer Guy Busick and R. Christopher Murphy, which Guy Busick also involved in the Scream franchise now as well. Of course, so was Radio Silence previously. Before Scream 7, they did Five Cream and Scream 6. The first film followed a young bride, Weaving, as she joined her new husband's rich, eccentric family in a time-honored tradition that turned into a lethal game with everyone fighting for survival. Trip Vincent, James Vanderbilt, Bradley J. Fisher, and William Chirac produced the sequel, with Busick, Murphy, Chad Valleja, Tara Farney, and Greg Denny as executive producers. And then a little bit more of the information on the production there. A genre darling, Newton's credits also include Freaky, Lisa Frankenstein, Paranormal Activity 4, and Supernatural. Loved Lisa Frankenstein. I still never watched Freaky. I probably need to do that shit with her and Vince Vaughn. I've always heard good things about it. But glad to see her teaming up with Radio Silence. She fit in great in Abigail. I think she'll be great in Ready or Not 2. And excited to hear more about what the plot details are and what they've got planned for Ready or Not 2. But there's some casting news that we know of thus far, and that's all I had as far as the movie news. Scream 7, Ted Lasso, DC news, Marvel news, and horror news, all coming at you right there, hot and heavy, and coming at you in rapid fashion, trying to make this episode a little bit shorter for you guys. But the last thing I want to talk about is something you can find more details about on my other YouTube channel, JC's CFB, which I'll drop a link to that in the video description and in the show notes there for you guys listening on the audio side if you want to check that one out. If you're a fan of the college football video game, that's what I cover there on that channel. But I do like to talk about it some on this podcast as well. And so one of the things that we got here was a cover leak for College Football 26, the deluxe edition, showcasing multiple players. And the big news is multiple coaches, real coaches, going to be coming to the game. We didn't get him in College Football 25. We're getting him in College Football 26. Also, some legends thrown in there. You see Tim Tebow, Denard Robinson, and some others. So this, confirms, I think, real coaches coming to the game, legends coming to the game in some form or fashion, and also it confirms multiple covers. This is the deluxe edition. We had multiple covers last year. On 3 here, also reporting a legends cover reportedly in the works with Denard Robinson and Tim Tebow participating in the photo shoot as we talked about there. So sounds like definitely multiple covers on the way. And, maybe the big news being that it looks like real coaches will be in College Football 26. But that's pretty much all that I had news-wise. Other things, I just want to wrap up talking about stuff I've been watching recently, as is always the case here on these pop culture podcast episodes, and I appreciate you guys tuning in here for this one. But the last thing is, I guess most recently, Severance has really been the main thing. I've been waiting every, Friday for that, Thursday night, whatever you want to call it. Absolutely loving Severance since I started it. Binged both the first season and most of the second season to get all caught up. Episode 7 and episode 8 of season 2 weren't really my favorites. They were giving us some answers, which is something that's great because that's what we've all been clamoring for, right? But they also felt just a little bit different because we didn't really focus on the characters, in the office that we've come to know and love. So that was a little bit different. But then episode 9 really got back into some major things. And I think the season finale coming up later this week will be awesome. Ben Stiller has confirmed it's going to be 76 minutes long. So, over an hour, about an hour and 15 minutes, probably an hour and 10 minutes if you don't include credits. So at least over an hour of content we're going to get for the season finale of Severance. So I assume we're going to get a lot of answers to end season 2. And hopefully we won't have to wait as long between season 2 and season 3 as people had to wait between season 1 and season 2. Like I said, I just came and found the series. So luckily I didn't have to endure that long wait. I know that had to suck, but season 2, episode 10, the season finale, Cold Harbor is the title, which if you've been watching the show, that's a big plot point and it's going to be super lengthy. So excited about that. Cannot recommend Severance enough. I think it's the best show on TV right now, probably in my opinion. Other than that, White Lotus, episode 5 just came out the day that I'm recording this, and absolutely love that as well. I think that, I've seen some people hating on season 3. For me, this kind of got back into form. I love season 1 of White Lotus. I haven't watched season 2 yet because like 2 or 3 different times I've tried to watch season 2 and I couldn't get past an episode or two. I don't know. I think White Lotus is just kind of a show where it's like you really have to like the cast a lot because you're kind of just learning a little bit about them piece by piece, and it's slowly like putting a puzzle together for you till it reveals a lot towards the end of the season, as it is kind of that murder mystery style, but it doesn't even feel like a murder mystery. That's what I like about White Lotus. You're just kind of watching the show and getting invested in these characters and these relationships, and you forget, oh yeah, some shit's going to pop off towards the end of this season. I forgot. That's at least how I feel about it. And season 3 is arguably my favorite season thus far. I really love this cast. The group of ladies, Leslie Bibb and company, they're awesome. Schwarzenegger's son and his family there with Jason Isaacs and Parker Posey, the North Carolina aspect of them is really great as well. And then Walton Goggins, man, he's one of my favorite actors. I love anything Walton Goggins does, and I think he's been incredible in this season. I really love season 3, 5 episodes in thus far, and I'm really enjoying it. It's right up there with season 1 for me. That's how I feel about it personally. So loving White Lotus. Then we got Daredevil Born Again. I've been watching it recently as well. I think that episode 3 was an improvement over episode 2 for me because Daredevil Born Again starts off with an absolute bang, a hell of a bang in the first episode. About the first 15 minutes are super explosive. And then it kind of turns into more of a legal drama than like an action superhero show that you would expect. Episode 3 kind of picked it up a little bit, and so I enjoyed it a little bit more because it was kind of a drag for me, I thought, through the first 2 episodes besides the first 15 minutes of the first episode. But also, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Netflix version. I loved season 1. I just never picked back up on it from there. I watched season 1 of Daredevil, and that was it. I never watched season 2, never watched The Punisher or any of the other Netflix Marvel shows. So for me, this is kind of me diving back into it. So maybe that's why it started off a little bit slower for me, but not a bad show by any means. I like Daredevil Born Again thus far. And then what else is it? Oh, Righteous Gemstones is back. Righteous Gemstones is back for their final season. 2 episodes in now. Just watched the second one before I recorded this. And the first episode, they called it the prelude or the prologue. And it's really kind of interesting because it goes back. They have Bradley Cooper back in the 1800s playing kind of the earliest patriarch, I guess you could say, of the Gemstone family. And then, of course, episode 2, we get back into the present day and we get to see Danny McBride and we get to see Adam Devine and John Goodman and all the characters we know and love return. Not to say that episode 1 was bad. Much like I said about Severance, just different than what you were expecting. And you were waiting to get back to the characters you know and love. And episode 2 delivered a shit ton of laughs, as Righteous Gemstones always tends to do. So excited for this final season to play out and deliver a lot of laughs along the way. So that's what I've been watching recently, guys. Hopefully you're checking out some of those as well. If you are, let me know your thoughts in the comments here on the video side, or leave it there in the comments on Spotify and the audio sides, or any other podcast platform you choose to listen to this on. Like Like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button before you head out. It really helps a shit ton with that algorithm. And be sure to subscribe here to the JC's Movies channel for movie news, movie reviews, especially within the comedy, superhero, and horror genres, as those are right up my alley. So if they're up yours too, be sure to hit the subscribe button and participate here on the channel. You get all these videos directly into your feed. But I appreciate you tuning in on any platform there on the audio side, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, or here on the video version on YouTube. And I will catch you guys on the next one.